Hello students, it is time for literature. This is scene 12, and this is literature 12. Sorry about that. Scene 5. Scene 5 is the last scene of the book. So it begins on page 55. I'm actually going to read some of this. Right here it says begin reading scene 5. Sorry, I've got something in my eye. And we'll get going. So it says, finally our brave Perseus arrived at the island where he expected to see his dear mother. But during this absence, the wicked king had treated Danae so very ill that she was compelled to leave her to make her escape, and had taken refuge in a temple where some good old priests were extremely kind to her. All right, so we've got the king again being mean, not a good guy. These praiseworthy priests and kind-hearted fishermen who had first shown hospitality to Danae and little Perseus when he found them afloat in the chest seemed to have been the only persons on the island who cared about doing right. So basically, this is an island filled with evil people. All the rest of the people, as well as King Polydectes himself, were remarkably ill-behaved and deserved no better destiny than that which was now to happen. Not finding his mother at home, Perseus went straight to the palace and was immediately ushered into the presence of the king. Polydectes was by no means rejoiced to see him, for he had felt almost certain in his own evil mind that the Gorgons would have torn out the poor young man to pieces and have eaten him up out of the way. However, seeing him safely returned, he put his best face he could upon the matter and asked Perseus how he had succeeded. So the king had wanted him dead, but that didn't happen. Have you performed your promise? Inquired he. Have you brought me the head of Medusa with the snaky locks? If not, young man, it will cost you dear. For I must have a bridal present for the beautiful Princess Hippodamia, and there is nothing else she would admire so much. Yes, please, your majesty, answered Perseus in a quiet way, as if it were no small wonderful deed for such a young man as he to perform. I have brought you the Gorgon's head, snaky locks and all. Indeed, pray let me see it, quoth King Polydectes. It must be a very curious spectacle, if all the travelers tell about it be true. Your majesty, it is in the right, replied Perseus. It is really an object that will be pretty certain to fix the regards of all who look at it. And if your majesty think it fit, I would suggest that a holiday be proclaimed, and that all your majesty's subjects be summoned to behold this wonderful curiosity. Perseus is up to something. Few of them, I imagine, have seen a Gorgon's head before, and perhaps never may again. The king well knew that his subjects were an idle set of reprobates, so they're a bunch of lazy people, and very fond of sightseeing, as idle persons usually are. So they like to just sit around and look at stuff, or see things. They're very lazy, not good people. So he took the young man's advice and sent out the heralds and messengers in all directions to blow the trumpet at the street corners and in the marketplaces and wherever two roads met, and summon everybody to court. Thither, accordingly, came a great multitude of good-for-nothing vagabonds, like people who are just lazy and good for nothing, all of whom, out of pure love of mischief, mischief is like doing bad things, would have been glad if Perseus had met with some ill hap in the encounter with the Gorgons. So they would have been happy if he was dead. If there were any better people in the island, as I really hope there may have been, although the story tells nothing about any such, they stayed quietly at home, minding their business, and taking care of their little ones. Most of the inhabitants, at all events, ran as fast as they could to the palace, and shoved and pushed and elbowed one another in their eagerness to get near a balcony on which Perseus showed himself holding the embroidered wallet in his hand. On a platform within full view of the balcony sat the mighty King Polydectes, amid his evil counselors and with his flattering courtiers in a semicircle around him. Monarch, counselors, courtiers, subjects all gazed eagerly towards Perseus. "Show us the head! Show us the head!" shouted the people, and there was such fierceness in their cries as if they would tear Perseus to pieces unless he should satisfy them with what they wanted, with what he had to show. "Show us the head of Medusa with the snaky locks." So you begin to see how a crowd can be evil. A feeling of sorrow and pity came over the youthful Perseus. "O King Polydectes," cried he, And you many people, I am very loath, or I'm regretful. I'm regretful. I don't want to show you the head of the Gorgon's, you the Gorgon's head. Ah, the villain and coward, yelled the people more fiercely than before. He is making game of us. He is no Gorgon's head. Show us a head if you have it, or we will take your own head for a football. Hey, that's pretty bad. Pretty harsh crowd. The evil counselors whispered bad advice in the king's ear. The courtiers murmured with one consent. So you see kind of how these people are reflecting the character of their king. That Perseus had shown disrespect to their royal lord and master. And the great King Polydectes himself waved his hand and ordered him, with stern, deep voice of authority on his peril, to produce the head. Show me the Gorgon's head, or I will cut off your own. And Perseus sighed. This instant, repeated Polydectes, or you die. Behold it then, cried Perseus in a voice like the blast of a trumpet. And suddenly holding up the head, not an eyelid had time to wink before the wicked king Polydectes. His evil counselors and all his fierce subjects were no longer anything but the mere images of a monarch and his people. They were all fixed forever in the look and attitude of that moment. At the first glimpse of the terrible head of Medusa, they whitened into marble. And Perseus thrust the head back into his wallet and went to tell his dear mother that she need no longer be afraid of the wicked king Polydectes. That's the end of the story. Pretty sad, not really gruesome tale, but think about the fact of what that king had done, the way he had treated Perseus and his mom. Think about in that what your scene name is going to be, who the main characters are, the leading idea, quite a few of them, and the plot. So, this story is meant to be able to teach a lesson to children, right? And so what do we learn? Consider the lessons we learn in this book, or in this story. Number one, it could be shown that you reap what you sow. This king was an evil man, and he ended up reaping what he sowed, getting what he asked for. So that's kind of how these Greek stories go. They give a very different depiction about what a god is, and so just read through. If you have any questions, let me know, and have a good day.